Okay, so hello, welcome back. Now in this video we talk a little bit about number pairs, and basically what the number pair is that all the different ways that you can express some number in terms of in terms of a sum of basically two numbers. Meaning that, for example, suppose that you have essentially the number 8, right? The number 8, you can write it as, for example, 1 plus a 7. Again, that same number 8, you can write it as 2 plus 5. Excuse me, you can write it as a 2 plus a 6. The same number 8, you can write it as 3 plus 5. The same number 8, you can write it as 4 plus a 4. And then the same number 8, you can write it as a 3 plus a 5 plus a 3, or essentially a 6 plus a 2, or a 7 plus a 1, and so essentially these are essentially the 4 unique ways that you can write down the number 8, right? Now, in order to know how many ways there are in total to write all the number pairs for any given number, you can think of course, you can think of any number as essentially as a number of bits, basically. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 bits over here. That represents basically a number 8, right? Because I have 8 bits over here. Now, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to put a separator right in the beginning. And that basically means there is no bits over here, and then there is 8 bits over here. So then 0 plus an 8 is equal to 8. That's one way to write basically the number 8. Or essentially a number pair for the number 8. Then this separator, I can move it over here. Now I have 1 bit over here and 7 bits over here. So 1 plus a 7 would be equal to basically an 8, right? The same separator, I can put it over here. Now I have 2 bits over here and 5 bits over here. 6 bits over here. So 2 plus a 6 would be equal to 8. The same separator, if I put it over here, I have 3 plus 5, which is equal to 8. The same separator, I can put it over here. Then I have basically 4 bits over here and 4 bits over here. So 4 plus a 4 is equal to 8. And then if I put my the separator over here, I will again end up with one of these, meaning that I have now 5 bits over here and 3 bits over here. So 5 plus 3 is equal to 8, which is something that we mentioned over here. So these are all the unique ways that you can write basically all the number pairs for number 8, of course excluding negative numbers, which is not important right now because we haven't talked about negative numbers yet, right? So that's essentially a number pair for 8 would be 0 and 8. Another number pair would be 1 and a 7. Another number pair would be basically 2 and a 6. Another number pair would be 3 and an 8, 3 and a 5. Another number pair would be 4 and a 4. That's basically all the number pairs for essentially the number 8, basically, right? And the same thing has been done over here on this and of course this number pair thing, it has applications in different places, so you need to know, at least you need to know about it. So for example, an 8 can be written as a 5 and a 3, a 7 and a 1. Now they have written a 7 and a 1 and a 1 and a 7, which is, well, kind of the same thing. Depends on the definition that you have in mind, but essentially to me 1 and a 7 and 7 and 1 is essentially the same thing. a 2 and a 6, a 3 and a 5, or a 5 and a 3, and so on and so forth. And then in the same way, in the same way, you can write all the number pairs for 5 or 7 or 9 or essentially any other number that you might have in mind. Now, these are some number pairs, for example, for these numbers 5, 6, 7, and 9. For example, for a 5, you would have essentially a 1 and a 4, or basically a 3 and a 2, for example, would be equal to 5. For a 6, for example, you would have a 0 and a 6, and a 4 and a 2, for example. For a 7, we have two different possible choices here. We have basically 5 and a 2, and 3 and a 4, basically. And for a 9, you would have a 6 and a 3, and a 5 and a 4, for example. So essentially, that's that. And of course, for a number, essentially for these number pairs, you can use number cards. Number cards are basically, you can use these simple, essentially a small card on which you've written some number, basically, and then you can essentially arrange those cards, for example, in such a way that their sum is, for example, is 9, for example, meaning that you can put a 4 over here and a 5, you can put an 8 and a 1 over here, and so on and so forth. Or essentially, you can even go for 3 numbers for a number. You can call it not a pair, but for example, a triplet. So then, for example, a 9 would be 2 and a 5 and a 1 and a 5 and a 3, for example. You can put all of those together to make a 9, and so on and so forth, right? And that's basically that. Now, in the next video, we will talk a little bit about these problems that we have here, and then we will move on to subtraction. Thank you.